I am Quinn Thomas, and I'm really excited to share with you an overview of a course I taught last semester in ecological forecasting and modeling at Virginia Tech. And my contact information is here, so you can, if you have further questions or are interested in seeing some of the materials. So as context, it was taught last semester in a virtual format over Zoom over the course of a 16-week semester, and it was 2 75-minute class periods per week, with 12 students at the graduate, undergraduate, and postdoc level. And the learning objectives from the class were formulate and numerically solve equations that mathematically represent an ecological system as a dynamic model, calculate the likelihood of data given a model formulation, apply a Bayesian approach to estimate parameters and uncertainty sources for this dynamic ecological modeling using time series data, apply data assimilation to a dynamic ecological model, and generate, visualize, and evaluate an ecological forecast. The topics that were associated with meeting these objectives that included coding assignments were an introduction, and that was via Macrosystems EDI Module 5, and the number of class periods dedicated to it is shown here. Intro to Dynamical Models, Principles of Likelihood, Bayesian Statistics 101, Bayesian Numerical Methods, State Space Models, Hierarchical Models, Generating Forecasts with Uncertainty, data assimilation using a particle filter, and then visualization decision support via Macrosystems EDI. And many of the assignments were modifications of the tutorials that are in the ecological forecasting book by Mike Dietz, but with a lot of modifications on my part. And the idea was that the same data sets show up repeating in this class so that students can see different techniques applied to similar data sets. And the data sets that were really revisited in this class were phenology, greenness from the phenocam at neon sites, daily time series of soil respiration from the University of Michigan Biological Station, and that was from the kind of the Project EDI that's publicly available. Google flu trends and basically carbon stocks from forest inventory for a single plot. And these are the data sets that appear, like for example, the students apply, learn how to calculate the likelihood of a model given data for phenocam, and then the assignment is about doing it for the soil respiration data. And then they apply the same model, but fit it in a Bayesian framework, and I teach them with tutorials on the phenocam, and then they have to apply it again to the soil respiration model. So there's a lot of structure in there in terms of seeing the same data sets show up repeatedly. And I used the NEON Ecological Forecasting Challenge in the class. There were 3 groups, 1 per theme, and the stages of development were, they had to come up with a model, fit it to data, make a first forecast, make an updated forecast, hopefully using data assimilation, and a presentation. And within class, I gave 3 weeks of in-class time to work on the model. And you can see where these different phases fall up, and you can really see that there's a front load in the class in terms of building out the training before the students are ready to submit. And students were so excited to see their forecasts being visualized when they submitted them, and they felt like they were part of something larger. And that's what was really exciting about using this concept of the Ecological Forecasting Challenge as the final project and the big thrust of the class. But it wasn't all about that. They learned a lot of foundational skills in the process. So some challenges with this class were really lining up the training with the forecast challenge due dates. The students really needed the first 75% of the class before they were ready to produce a forecast. It was also tough to get kind of like have folks on the same page in terms of prior experience. Everyone had prior R experience, but they actually really needed prior experience in probability distributions and programmatic coding like for loops. So there's a lot of time kind of booting people up in this area. And then finally, the idea of teaching model development and model fitting in a single course, I find to be tough. Students want to do some sort of cool ecological model, but it's really hard to fit that to data with the skills that they can learn in this class. And so there was really a focus on the simple models rather than kind of like the fun mechanistic models. And so you really have to consider that balance of how much you want to do in terms of the dynamical models versus the kind of the act of fitting it to data, while ultimately getting students actually really doing a true forecast as part of the challenge. And so, some needs I think that we need different, there's a lot of different ways to come at forecasting. You could think about it as machine learning, kind of empirical. You could think about it as process-based models. I think we really need examples of how to do these different techniques to the different data streams that are being produced by Neon. And we can pick and choose those to spice into a class as examples. And we also, there was a big kind of like aspect of the class that I didn't teach because you don't have time, but like there's a lot of data wrangling that is required, particularly of non-Neon data, to really kind of build the models that the students were excited for. For example, like weather data and kind of processing of that. And so there's a lot of moving parts in really getting students from almost nothing to contributing a forecast that they're really proud of. And so, you know, a course really needs to think about like what you want to clean up for the students to make it a lot easier, and where the struggle points or the learning points will be within the class. So I'm happy to you know, answer any questions and you know, share my materials. If you're interested, just reach out to me. Thank you.